Hello, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the webinar, Bestmile Platform, What It Is and What It Isn't, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I'm Bill Peatman from Bestmile, and we are excited to share this webinar with you. Today, we're going to focus very specifically, as the title says, on the Bestmile Platform, what it is and what it isn't, what it does and what it doesn't do. Our presenter today is Luc Texier, Bestmile Head of Sales in Europe. He's a mobility expert and frequent speaker on technology for on-demand, driverless, and human-driven mobility systems. Before we get started, we need to do a little housekeeping. All participants are muted, and questions can be asked by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens. Please enter your questions during the presentation so that we can see the most frequently asked questions and make sure that they're addressed. We'll get to as many questions as we can after the formal part of the presentation is over, and we'll answer any others via email after the webinar ends. And when you leave the webinar, you will receive a message from Zoom, our webinar platform, with a link to a survey that asks your views on the content of the webinar. And we ask that you please let us know your opinion so that we can tailor future webinars to the needs of our audiences. Just click yes in the link in the email. And this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be emailed to all who registered to attend, whether you attended the live version or not. And now I'll turn it over to Luc.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Very excited to be with you today. Quickly about myself, I was introduced already, but just to say that I had the opportunity and the chance to be involved in many of this new mobility service deployments in Europe. I'm the head of sales for Europe, and I've been with Bestmile for the past 3 years. So the point today again is to talk about what Bestmile is and what Bestmile is not. And I think a good starting point is to look at the mobility ecosystems. You might know Mark Ambler is a seasoned expert in the mobility space, and he maintains a diagram which attempts to compile in one place the most relevant companies active in the current mobility space. And it starts at the bottom with the providers of hardware devices such as lidars, cameras, and other sensors. And just with this piece of the diagram, we have already 150 companies in there. To leverage of these amazing hardware technologies, many startups and traditional players have developed tons of software products to address many topics such as autonomous driving, localization, mapping, simulations, and much more. And as you can see, we have a few hundred companies in there as well. And on the very top, we find the vendors of full software stacks, but also the vehicle manufacturers, as well as analytics providers of analytics software. And by the way, we are here in the box, in this box on the left-hand side. And if we zoom into this one, this AV fleet management bucket, you can see that Bestmile is mixed with companies focused on market segments that we are not addressing at all. For instance, our good friends at Vulog and RideSell providing tech for car sharing, Autopia doing remote operations for vehicles, other companies claiming to manage driverless vehicles but never did, and so on and so forth. So yes, you're right. All this is quite confusing, especially to the public transport industry, which is used to stability and long-term IT and business partners. And this is why we wanted to do this short webinar today, to address some very legit questions that we received during our previous webinars this year. What is Bestmile? What it is not? What does it do? What it doesn't do? So first of all, a very legit question that we get all the time at conferences, during webinars, and so on and so forth, is Bestmile a mobility provider? And the simple answer is no. Bestmile is not a mobility provider or a transportation company at all. Very much like Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle, we are selling a software to companies which develop IT solutions. So we are a pure software vendor. And our customers, in fact, are public transport companies, new mobility providers, and players in the ride-hailing space, for instance, but also microtransit companies, new or traditional. And of course, all the companies deploying one way or another driverless vehicles worldwide at the moment. Another question we get a lot is Bestmile Platform replacing traditional bus fleet management systems? Again, it's a no, not at all. We are not competing in this space whatsoever, and we will never do. What we do, though, is to partner with some of the best players in this market. Let's not forget that the first and last mile mobility service, whether it's based on driverless or driven vehicle, makes sense only if and only when perfectly integrated with public transport backbones such as train lines, bus lines, trams, and so on and so on. And so forth. And in that case, in order to synchronize our respective IT systems, i.e. making sure that, for example, an AV shuttle is on time for the schedule at the train station, we have developed over the past 3 years some very strong official partnerships with the market leader that you see on the screen. And these agreements also allows our partners to complete existing and new lines with driverless vehicles, for instance, so it's a very short go-to-market for them. And last but not least, we had to develop some expertise internally at Bestmile to master the standards such as VDV, GTFS, or SIRI here in Europe. Next question, is Bestmile making vehicles? And it's a very legit question because obviously you see a lot in the news and PRs, websites, conferences, us, alongside vehicles. Obviously, we are orchestrating fleets of vehicles. The answer here is no. Again, we are a pure software company. Our job is to orchestrate fleets of vehicles sold by other parties. Though this being said, obviously, it's a key component in the ecosystem, and through partnerships and integrations, most driverless vehicles available on the market today are connected to Bestmile platform. In a nutshell, it works by having the vehicle manufacturer using our API to create a virtual communication pipe between the machine and our software. It doesn't stop there because Bestmile platform is designed to orchestrate fleets composed of also driven vehicles. It can be both. We have customers with both driverless and driven vehicles in the same fleet. And in that case, the communication happens between the vehicle via the driver in the driver app. And we talk about this application in a minute. Another question, last one, is Bestmile developing autonomous driving kit. Once again, not at all. We are collaborating with the largest providers of autonomous driving kits, since the autonomous driving kit is actually in charge of receiving and processing the mission generated by our orchestration engine. We send the A, the B, and how to get from A to B, and then the autonomous driving kit is in charge of moving the vehicle accordingly. So it's a no. I forgot to put it. So to fully understand where Bestmile fits in the value chain, shall we review the main components of a modern on-demand mobility service? It starts obviously with the journey with the traveler, you and me, who wants to go from A to B as efficiently and as cheaply as possible. Most likely in an on-demand service, is going to be he or she will use a mobile application to book a trip on the spot or with pre-booking. The mobility service is provided by a company, a local or global, and it can be a new player or a large traditional public transport operator. Step 3, in order to execute this mission, again, the pickup, the drop-off, and the path in between, the mobility provider has to deploy a fleet orchestration software, which computes this mission in real time. That's very important, in real time, in a real-life environment, such as a city center. And the software has to take into account the environment, the traffic situation, the weather forecast, and so on and so forth. And fourth, the service provider has most likely also deployed some asset management software to manage the maintenance of the vehicles, the cleaning, but also the driver scheduling, all the main activities of the operations team. And last but not least, the service provider owns some vehicles or rents some vehicles driverless or human driven. So at the end, if we focus and we just hide quickly the other stakeholders. Bestmile Platform is the orchestration platform at the heart of this system. So the question is, what is Bestmile Platform? If we look quickly at the definition, is a cloud-based mobility service solution, which includes a fleet orchestration platform and adds on featuring native professional and public application, as well as API-based integrations with third parties and operator systems to seamlessly connect mobility providers, vehicles, drivers, and travelers in order to optimize fleet performance. You would agree with me, that's pretty dry for a definition. So if we need to explain that to our kids tonight during dinner, in a nutshell, Bestmile Platform is an automated control tower for on-demand vehicle fleets. And our main job, our mission on this planet is to send the right vehicle to the right place at the right time in the most efficient way, and once again, in real time. So fleet orchestration is again, sending the right vehicle to the right place at the right time. And thanks to this orchestration and the apps available in the platform, our customers can go to market quickly with on-demand services on fixed line or door-to-door, or both. You can imagine on this picture having the service time-based during the day and maybe on-demand at night. Again, this happens thanks to the connection between the vehicles and the platform, and the vehicles pushing all the telemetry data in real time to make those decisions, and then let the platform do the dispatching, the optimization, the routing, the pooling, and so on and so forth. We won't get too much into those details today. But if we zoom into the main components of this platform, at the heart, you've got the orchestration, this little brain. It provides all the features needed to optimally dispatch the vehicles and in real time. It reacts to incoming bookings and various events and continuously adapts and re-optimizes the vehicle plans, matches the rides to the right vehicle, regulates headways and timetable trips if it's a fixed line service, and communicate obviously the optimized route and timing to the vehicles. That's what we call in our language the dynamic mission management. Around this orchestration platform, or the orchestration heart or core piece, you've got the supervision that's a must-have. It gives the operator a comprehensive overview of the current operational situation to monitor the vehicle fleet and the fleet operations in real time. That's a key component of what we call a control center. And of course, it gives access to a rich set of dynamic vehicle data, including telemetry, video streams, dispatch status, weather data, traffic information. So everything that you need in the control center to keep an eye on the system and make sure everything is in control. Another piece really important is what we call foresight, which provides all the advanced predictive features to help to proactively optimize the operations with respect to future demand for on-demand services. And this includes demand forecasting, vehicle preposition technique, which again is one of the many promises of driverless and autonomous mobility, but as well as advanced predictive energy and charging management. If you send a vehicle to a location and it doesn't have enough energy to achieve the mission, that doesn't make any sense. The planning module gives a mobility provider the necessary tools to prescribe and configure the transportation system, the property of the fleet delivered to use the services. You have different elements in there, like the static elements of the service, like the service area, the lines, the stops, the service quality, the timetable or the target frequencies, and many other items that really belong to this module, like the fleet composition, the vehicle availability, the driver assignment, and the shift or the shift schedules, for instance. All this is pretty awesome already and pretty cool, but at the end of the day, someone will probably ask, okay, show me some KPIs, show me some reports. That's what we have with the business intelligence module, which provides the descriptive analytics and super rich reporting features, so that data analysts and people in charge of the service can inspect, visualize, and extract historical data. Our reports are very rich. We rely on a very good BI engine to provide those KPIs, which can be like traveler service level, vehicle performance, fleet efficiency, driver utilization. And this is really important, for instance, with AV systems, usually stakeholders for the time being until those vehicles can reach level 5 and really do it on their own. They really need to know what's going on, what is the rate between autonomous versus manual, the average travel speed, and things like this. So the other thing that and of course, we provide with this platform what we call the add-ons, which are basically mobile and web apps. They are developed using our APIs and SDK, which are also available to our customers. So you can develop your own app, and you can also integrate those features into your own app. And we help you with that with customer success and other teams around the project. We look into those apps in the next slide. The goal today is about, to explain also what is not Bestmile. What you see that on the right-hand side, again, we are not developing vehicle technology. We are not into the asset management. You can find a lot of very good companies out there which have been providing this technology for many years. We have partnerships with them, and we work with them to integrate with Bestmile Platform and vice versa. But that we are not into that segment and that business. Same for the HR platform and the back office functions, which belong really to companies that provide this technology very well, and have been doing that for a long time. So if we dive into the apps quickly, two groups basically. On the right hand side, the public applications for the targeting the travelers. They are white label. Again, they are based and developed on top of our APIs and SDKs, so you can develop your own app if you want. For turnkey solutions and for quick go-to-market, those apps are really ideal, and they provide all the main features that you need to just go live and go to market quickly. We have the same option with the traveler web portal and the kiosk. They are just different view of the system, and they can be used in combinations depending on what you're looking for with the service, especially at the beginning. Maybe it can be part of some marketing initiatives. On the left-hand side, we've got what we call the professional apps, the pro apps, targeting the mobility provider, i.e. the customer, and starting obviously with a key piece in the control center called the dashboard, which provides a very comprehensive view of the systems. You have tons of features. We won't list them all here, but you can work on bookings, you can work on KPIs, reporting, you can configure the system. Obviously, you have user management, role-based management, and so on and so forth. So all the rich features that you expect from a true enterprise software. And of course, when we enable human-driven systems, we have the driver app, which also is based on APIs and SDKs, and we have a very specific flavor, or another flavor of the driver app called the AV Safety Driver app, which targets the safety driver that we have our customers still have to hire for inside the autonomous vehicles or the driverless vehicles. And with this app, they can manage checklists, they can manage really the operations on a daily basis instead of using paper documents or Excel or something like this. So if we try to summarize, at Bestmile, we are providing a SaaS platform as a building block of the mobility solution developed by a mobility provider. It starts with the integration of the vehicles, driven or autonomous, it doesn't matter for us at Bestmile, and we take care of this part. Of course, it's a very tricky part. The vehicles are very different from each other, and we have to provide this integration in a very agnostic way, regardless of the type and the brand of the vehicle. For turnkey solutions, we've seen that just before, we provide the public-facing apps, and most likely, as a mobility provider, you would eventually leverage our rich APIs to develop your own app or integrate with existing apps dedicated to this service, or maybe a mobility as a service app as well. We provide the professional apps, used on the day-to-day operations at the control center, and also, as I mentioned earlier, with the safety driver app on the field inside the vehicles for day-to-day operations of driverless vehicles. And last but not least, we are very well known on the market to be very friendly to public transport. It's been in the DNA of Bestmile from day one. We integrate with large public transport operators. Most of our projects are actually integrated with public transport, as well as backend systems such as CRMs, payment systems, and so on and so forth. Today, you clearly can't provide an enterprise software as such without the integration pieces around. So I think it's an interesting reminder for all of us that it's not about the vehicle, it's not about even the orchestration platform. It's about the ecosystem, and you need to have all those pieces very open, very integrated, and that's what we do with Bestmile Platform. We provide a vehicle agnostic platform that do orchestration and optimization in real time. And thanks to that and all the other components and the other partners around the mobility provider, all together we can provide this what we all wish for, the smart mobility service for on-demand, for time-based, for shared, for individual rides. And also at Bestmile, we deliver into, or we look into other options such as smart delivery and smart logistics as well. And, again, at the heart of those systems, you have Bestmile Platform, this automated control tower. We are almost on time. And thanks everyone for listening. It was a pleasure. I see that we have some questions already, so I will turn over to Bill to handle the Q&A. Thanks again. It was a pleasure today. Again, feel free to let's start conversations. Feel free to ping me, send me emails, and to the rest of the team, and see how we can enable your mobility service ASAP. Bill, back to you.
Thank you, Luc. As you said, we do have a few questions coming in. I'll try to organize them by topic so that we don't ask the same thing over and over again. And we'll get to the most frequently asked ones. There are a number of questions that are about what we manage and don't manage. Electric vehicles, energy levels. So maybe you can talk about, again, a little bit about the difference between management and orchestration, and which parts of the platform do or if any of the parts of the platform do some of the things that are traditional management functions.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. The orchestration is really about defining the A to B and how to get from A to B, and so sending the right vehicle to the right place at the right time. The key thing is that we have to take into account many parameters. The energy is one of them, and especially with autonomous vehicles or driverless vehicles, since all of them are electric today. So the energy management is a constraint by definition. The battery level are not, they don't last forever. At some point, some vehicles or all of the vehicles have to be sent to the charging station, and that's a constraint that is taken into account by the vehicle itself. Energy is not just electrical energy; actually, it could be any other source of energy. But the sending the right mission to the right vehicle at the right time is also based on the constraint, the energy constraints as well.
Okay, great. So another question here. We have a couple questions about limitations on the size of the fleet that we work with.
Yeah, it's a good question. The beauty of starting from a blank piece of paper, and that was the case with Bestmile 5 years ago, is that from the very beginning, the goals of Bestmile Platform, one of the goals was to manage hundreds and thousands of vehicles at once in real time. Okay, so it's not pre-calculations or anything like this. It's actually real time. And it's only when you address the whole challenge of orchestrating a fleet of vehicles in real time that you realize, what is needed in the platform in terms of algorithms and excellence in the predictions and so on and so forth. So be sure that Bestmile was designed for this challenge. It's not about orchestrating 10 vehicles at once. Everybody can do that. It's about orchestrating hundreds and thousands of vehicles, and we do that already with obviously with human-driven systems, much less with autonomous. Everybody knows that the fleets are still small today, but that's the situation with hundreds of vehicles already with human-driven systems.
So another question is that leads right into it. Is there any difference between working with or supporting human-driven and autonomous fleets, or what are the differences?
Yeah, the difference is the guy sitting in the seat in front of the wheel. Now, joking aside, there's obviously a difference. An autonomous or driverless vehicles will just take the mission and execute the mission. A driver has the option to go somewhere else and to take another route and not follow the mission. So for the mobility provider, there's a task in this to-do list is to train properly the drivers and make sure the driver follow the instructions given by the platform. The platform will react to changes. I mean, the driver not using the right route or doing something else is very much like any other constraints, like maybe an accident or some, bad weather and something like this. But if all drivers do whatever they want, of course it won't work. So obviously with a human-driven system, the drivers have to be trained properly and they have to follow the missions sent by the platform.
Great, thank you. So a couple of questions regarding to communicating with vehicles. This will have two parts. How does Bestmile communicate with vehicles if it doesn't have anything on the vehicle, and does it have any challenges getting access to vehicle data required to orchestrate a fleet?
That's a very good question. So I presume they're talking about human-driven vehicles. For autonomous vehicles, there is an integration with a communication protocol. Again, this virtual pipe has to be enabled in order for the vehicles to push the telemetry data up to the platform and for the platform to send the mission back in return. For human-driven systems, it's quite easy. It happens through the driver app, which is a mobile application that has to sit inside the vehicle. And inside this, the driver app, our driver app, there is the client that is opening the channel up to the platform. So there is no modification to do on the vehicle itself. This being said, if other data sets are needed, there could be some integration, and this will have to be integrated properly with the app if they want to push data from the vehicles through the channel. But there's no, for example, for Alto or good customers in the US, they are not modifying the vehicle, they are not touching anything. They just give a mobile app and on a mobile device to the driver.
Okay, great. A couple of questions about competition. One person asked would you say that Uber has its own fleet orchestration, for example?
So Uber doesn't do a fleet orchestration whatsoever. They don't own the assets. They rely on drivers who basically bring their own car. So it's just a marketplace. Uber is just a marketplace. There is no orchestration. There is no control center. There is nothing like that. Their role is to book the demand with the supply. That's all.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm sorting through these things here. Can you share any information about our business model?
Sure. So our business model and pricing is based on the license fee per vehicle per month. Again, that's a service. It's a software as a service that is available in the cloud. And we charge per vehicle per month with a different pricing, whether it's an autonomous or a human-driven vehicle.
Okay. And how many customers are we working with now, or how many customers are connected to our platform?
Well, we have quite a few customers everywhere on the planet. In fact, we have customers in Europe, obviously, which is a strong market with public transport. We have customers in the US where the market is stronger with ride-hailing services. and we have customers more on the heavy side in Asia as well. So that's some of the customers you can see on our website and somewhere else, and we have quite a few development and deployments, especially this year, happening at the moment, both in the US and in Europe.
So that leads great tee up to this question. Can you give us an example of a specific client and project?
Of a what? Sorry?
Of a specific client and project.
Sure. One that is really interesting is Alto, ALTO, in the US. This is a new mobility provider. They came from nowhere, if you will. If you look at large public transport operators that have been operating in a long time, for many years. So they started 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, and they are providing. It's basically a competitor of Uber on a segment that is addressing like families and women and kids, and they have been developing very quickly thanks to Bestmile Platform, because they were able to go to market very quickly. It's interesting because compared to Uber, of course, they own the assets. So they hire the drivers, they have the vehicles. And what we found amazing with this company, which is actually developing apps on top of our APIs and SDKs, is they really wanted to control the whole user experience, down to the color of the lights of the vehicle, the clothes for the drivers, the smell inside the vehicle, the user experience from the app, and you can see that it's a very strong trend in the US. In the sense that people are kind of getting tired of Uber, of not knowing exactly who is going to be driving, not knowing the quality of the vehicle or the brand, or just even, I can see it sometimes, the quality of the seats and just the whole journey experience. And that's why they are so successful, and they are developing in many other cities in the US at the moment. I recommend, if you have time, go online, check it out, because it's a great success, and I think we'll see more and more players of that kind competing with Uber with a better user experience and a better quality of the service as well.
Okay, thanks. So here's a question about, is there any difference, and we have actually a few questions around this area, so I'm going to kind of combine them. Is there anything that would stop us from being able to support urban delivery or logistics integration? And is there a way to integrate with those types of services?
Yeah, we can't disclose anything at this point, but we've been, this market, this segment has asked us a lot for help, because of course you've got more and more providers of and manufacturers of vehicles, and the technology is there. We know with the autonomous driving kit and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you want the delivery process to happen efficiently, you need orchestration. And Bestmile is so agnostic and so global that almost any moving object, on ground moving object, can be optimized and orchestrated by Bestmile Platform. So indeed, we are working, and there are some super cool stuff coming up that will be announced by the end of the year. Please follow our news, because there are some very important news for this market and for us, obviously, in Europe, in the Middle East, and also in the US. So this is going to be a large segment for us moving forward.
Okay, well, I think we've run through most of our questions here. Great job. Thank you all for your participation and for asking so many questions. I hope that we got to everything. If we didn't, feel free to contact us.
Yeah, please send me emails.
And if we also will reach out to you if you asked a specific question that we didn't get a chance to answer.
Yep.
I hope you've enjoyed the experience. Once again, you will receive an email with a link to a survey just after the webinar ends. So please take some time to fill that out. We'd really appreciate it. And again, just a reminder, you will receive a recording of this webinar within the next 24 to 48 hours. So thank you again for joining us, and we will let you know when our next webinar is taking place, and hope you can join us again. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.